A warm welcome to today's talk. It's Saturday the 22nd of May. Now, some news from the UK and the United States today, and a little bit from Asia as well, and we'll finish off with a report from Australia. Now, cases in the UK are going up at the moment. Let's just have a look at it. So cases 2,694 in the past 24 hours, but that's working out at 17,410 in the past 7 days. And the point about that is 10.5% higher than the 7 days before. So there's a definite increase in cases now in the UK. Now, why is this? Well, we had been expecting it because of the opening up and the certain amount of household mixing indoors that was allowed from the 17th of May. It was quite inevitable cases would go up, particularly with spread of disease in the unvaccinated younger segment of the population. So we expected this. And I think the main factor explaining this is these relaxing of regulations, which of course we're all enjoying now. Also, to some extent, the Indian variant is playing a part. Now, are we particularly worried about this increase in cases? Well, although the cases are up 10.5% in the week, and it sounds bad, it's from a fairly low base. Thankfully, it's from a fairly low base. So it's 10.5% of not that massive amount, although, as we've said, 2,694 new cases in the last 24 hours. But that's over all of the UK. But it's still a fair increase. But the key thing now is that most of the people that are likely to get sick from this illness, the older age groups, have been vaccinated. So they are protected. So even though cases will increase, I'm not expecting a concomitant follow-on increase in cases in hospitalization and death. So I'm not pretending it's good news, but it's nothing like as bad as it would have been, say, a year ago when we didn't have the vaccines. And the increase in cases then would automatically transpose into increasing deaths. We're not in that situation, thankfully. Deaths, 6 deaths in the past 24 hours. And we pause to remember 127,716 people have died within 28 days of a positive test. In the past 7 days, 41 people have died within 28 days of a positive test. But that's down 43.1% on the week. So this is a good reduction on the week in deaths, and it's this uncoupling between cases and vaccinations that we were talking about that is so welcome. Deaths, 139 deaths in the past 7 days equals 151,904 deaths if you take deaths from the death certificates where COVID is the primary cause. This 151,000 is probably really more accurate than 127,000 because people will have died who did not get tested. So that's probably the more accurate figure. Hospital admissions up 122 in the last 24 hours. Past 7 days, 703 people have been admitted, down 7.1% on the week before. So we see these trends are basically encouraging. And I would expect deaths and hospitalizations to keep going down despite the increase in cases, even if they don't go down as much. The increase in cases will cause some hospitalizations and deaths, but as we've said, way less. And that's because of the UK vaccination programme. Now, this is impressive. First dose today, last 24 hours, 208,310 doses. Second dose today, 411,000. So roughly that's 630,000 or something doses of vaccine given in the past 24 hours. This is really gearing up nicely. And in England, at least, 32 and 33-year-olds can now book for a vaccine. So we're coming down the age groups quite nicely. Now, before we look at some more news from the UK today, I just want to compare a little bit with the United States vaccination situation. So just over 70% of adults are vaccinated in the UK, or at least with the first dose. In the States, it's actually falling behind a bit. It's only 60.8. Okay, this is CDC data, so it's a couple of days out of date, but it's still falling behind the UK vaccination figures. And it's not because there's a lack of vaccine supply in the States either. There's not. So of the total population, it's 48.6% have had one dose and 35.8% have had are fully vaccinated with 2 doses unless they're having the Janssen vaccine, Johnson & Johnson, in which case it's 1 dose. But almost 10% of adults less with at least 1 dose of vaccine in the States. And to be quite honest, this is becoming a bit of a concern now. Let me show you what I mean on this. So here we have the now what's this? This is the total doses administered in the States, and we see it's going down. The total amounts of vaccines are going down, and people receiving the first dose, again we see that going down, and people who've had fully vaccinated, again we see the daily numbers. The daily numbers are going down, and this is due to lack of uptake, because in the States at the moment there are more vaccines available than people offering their arms to put it in. So it looks like a bit of vaccine hesitancy is slowing the programme down in the States, and this could be a problem, to be quite honest. We need to keep an eye on this and encourage people to get vaccinated. So that's the United States vaccination trends that you can see there for yourself. Now, the vaccination type is interesting in the States. Pfizer is the most common. So a number of people, this is people fully vaccinated. Of course, these are 2 doses, that's 2 doses, and that's 1 dose. So the Pfizer BioNTech, 66 million fully vaccinated, the Moderna 51 fully vaccinated, and the Janssen Johnson & Johnson just under 10 million. And this is not another strange vaccine that's crept into the States. It's just that the data has not been recorded. Now, coming back to the UK, let's look at the Office for National Statistics data released yesterday, taking us up to the 15th of May. So this is the week before the week where there was the 10.5% increase. So early signs of potential increase the week before that. So that's 2 weeks now we've been getting an increase, and a 10.5% on top of this increase that this is being described here up to the present time. But they do say that cases overall remain low. So this is a percentage on a low number. Prevalence in England for the week, 49,000 people with the infection estimated from their figures. That's 1 in 1,100 people. So that's the prevalence. Wales, it was a lot lower, a very low prevalence in Wales. That's interesting. 4,340 people in Wales, 1 in 4,000. Not 4,340 people, 1 in 4,340 people. So pretty low in Wales. Northern Ireland, 1 in 1,500 and a bit people. Scotland, 1 in just under 2,000 people. So a lower prevalence, but the increase already starting 2 weeks ago and now carrying on into this week for things we've already discussed. Now, in England, this is just starting to show. Remember, this data is just up to the 15th of May, but we are starting to see, we got that nice decline when that flattening period we lived through, a more decline and then a slight increase now. And we know that dot now is there as well, because it's a week later and we've had another increase. So opening up, and of course the variant situation. Now, looking at the variant situation in the UK, there it's now. I've put the link to this. It's all here. Variant distribution of cases data. Data up to the 19th of May. So it's only three days out of date. So that's actually pretty good. And it gives all of the variants there for your perusal. But of course, the one we're particularly interested in is the India variant. So I've got this one here. I probably could have done it a bit bigger, but never mind. So the India variant, that number's 3,424 cases identified so far of the India variant. And that's an increase of 2,111 on the week. So we see a rapid increase with the India variant on the week, according to these official figures. Quite interesting to look at that, actually. There it is there. So yeah, it's still the same figure. This is live from the website as we speak. Now, we've looked at the situation in India and Bangladesh, and we know it's still difficult. Cases are coming down in India now, but we know that a lot of the cases have unfortunately moved into the villages, where the data collection is much less. But another knock-on effect of the India situation is they're not exporting vaccines. So next door, Bangladesh, population 166 million, has asked Britain and the United States for doses of AstraZeneca. Now, the United States has not authorised AstraZeneca, but it does have about 60 million doses in stock, we believe, and we believe they are being moved abroad now, which is good. Because what's actually happened here is that Bangladesh has started vaccinating people, expecting more supplies from India, but then India stopped the exports, so they're in a bit of a pickle there, really. They need 1.6 million doses pretty well immediately for the second doses, otherwise they're going to break the vaccination schedules. They had received 10 million AstraZeneca from India in recent months, so they made a start, but now they're receiving, of course, nothing from India. Same with a lot of the COVAX countries as well. And as of May the 21st, 3.54% had at least one dose. So India and Nepal, things are not good now. Pakistan, Bangladesh, we are actually worried about. Now I'm going to leave it there because I want to leave time for Dr. Susan Oliver's talk. I know a lot of us really enjoy these talks.
Hello, this is Susan from Sydney with an update from Australia. In my last update, I mentioned we had 2 community cases in Sydney which came from an unknown source. Now, we never did find the source, but the good news is that there appears to have been no further spread. And in fact, currently there is no known community spread anywhere in Australia. Now, this is great, but it is leading to complacency with most people in Australia thinking COVID is not something that they can get. Now, last week I mentioned the effect this complacency was having on people's behaviour. Unfortunately, it looks like it is now also considerably affecting the vaccine rollout. So we are now up to over 3.5 million doses, and that includes about 50% of people over 70 and nearly everyone in aged care. And on Monday, I'll be added to the numbers. Alas, not everyone is as excited about getting vaccinated as me. In fact, a recent survey has shown that almost 30% of adults are not planning to get vaccinated against COVID-19. And the main reasons given for this are concerns over side effects and a belief that you can't get COVID in Australia. Now, Australia has done a great job of keeping COVID out, but we still have had outbreaks, including a very deadly one in Victoria. And we could still have another because the quarantine system is not infallible, and at some stage our borders will reopen. Now, regarding concerns over side effects, in my last report I mentioned how the media were sensationalising these side effects and adding to vaccine hesitancy. Well, they're still doing it, so I'm just going to mention it again. So the Therapeutics Goods Administration, which is our equivalent of the MHRA or the FDA, releases a weekly report which covers side effects following vaccines. The latest report stated that there were an additional 6 cases of blood clots that were likely linked to vaccination. 4 of these cases were already out of hospital, while the 2 that remained in hospital were responding to treatment and stable. The report went on to say that because of heightened awareness, cases were being detected early and therefore patients were responding well to treatment. What did the media report? 6 new cases of blood clots, 1 man in critical condition. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should just dismiss these cases, but it needs to be put in perspective. Side effects are unfortunately very common with medications and they occur all the time. But the media doesn't feel the need to report on any of the other side effects that occur on a daily basis in Australia. But at least the media did provide some unbiased reporting, and that was of a hairdresser from Queensland who is refusing to allow vaccinated customers into her salon because she thinks the vaccine is going to escape via their sweat and pass on side effects to her staff. Surely all the tinfoil that they use in hairdressing salons will protect them. Now, I'd like to tell you about some really interesting research from Australia that has recently been published in a journal called Immune. The research was undertaken by some scientists from the University of Melbourne and also the Monash Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences. What they found was that noradrenaline, which is produced by the body in response to stress, can temporarily stop immune cells from moving, and therefore the immune cells can't effectively fight pathogens or tumour cells. Now, a certain amount of noradrenaline is required for the body to function, but the researchers found that excess noradrenaline was responsible for impaired immunity. Anecdotally, it's been known for a while that, you are more likely to get sick when you're stressed, but this research actually shows why. I also wondered when I read this is if this could be partially responsible for what is known as the placebo effect. In a nutshell, the placebo effect occurs when people are given a sugar tablet and they get better. Now, sometimes this is just coincidence because the people are going to get better anyway, but sometimes the power of the mind is believed to play a role. So perhaps people who are told by a doctor that they are being given an effective treatment will feel less stressed and get better sooner because they are producing less noradrenaline. Now, the researchers don't say this, it's just me speculating, but it could be behind, some of the anecdotes that people share about, taking X, Y, Z and feeling better immediately. Now, back to the key finding of the research that stress can impact the immune system. This does have important implications for COVID-19, particularly given a lot of people are stressed for the impacts of living in a pandemic. Dr. John did a video about 2 months ago where he discussed mental well-being and how to improve it, as well as how to recognise if you're in mental distress. So if you haven't seen the video, look it up. One thing he mentioned that helps with stress, though, is having a pet. Yes, having a pet. But today I'd like to talk about something else that causes a lot of people stress, and that is bullying. Now, some people have mentioned in the comments how awful my Aussie accent is, and they're right, it's terrible. What may surprise you is that I once had a Northern English accent. However, when I started school, a number of kids started bullying me about it, and they basically made my life a total misery. So what I did was I practiced every day, trying to imitate how they spoke, and I was hoping as long as I, could start speaking like them, they'd stop picking on me, and well, you can see the results. However, most people who are bullied about things that they can't change, and so they continue to suffer, and often, they suffer in silence. So if I could ask everyone listening to be on the lookout for people being bullied and do what you can to help. Sometimes just showing them that there are people who care will go a long way. And of course, most bullies are cowards, so they won't want people on the side of their victims. And if you are a victim of bullying, don't do what I did and keep it to yourself. Speak to someone about what is happening and don't try to solve the problem by changing. Remember, the bully is a person who has a problem, not you. So, thanks for listening and stay happy.
Good messages from Susan as always. Thank you for that, Susan. Now, if you're in the government in the UK or Europe or the United States or basically anywhere in the world, let me just remind you of what Susan said there. There is currently no community spread in Australia. Absolutely incredible, but the vaccine hesitancy is there. Right, Susan, nothing wrong with a Northern English accent, like what I've got. Tinfoil hat brigade joke was good. I like that. Stress and immunity, definitely. I mean, stress definitely reduces the immune system, doesn't it? And anyone in a difficult situation, whether it's bullying or not, whether it's someone sick, whether it's someone isolated at home, whether it's someone with long COVID, whatever it is, then what we can always do, of course, is just come alongside them. Just come alongside people. Let them know you're there. That's often enough to make a big difference. Placebo effect is definitely an interesting factor. Many causes for that, probably. And the placebo effect is just that. If I give you a treatment and you believe it's going to work, then that can help you, whether it's an effective treatment or not. But the opposite also works, which is a nocebo effect. So if you give someone something that they believe to be a poison or a toxin or is going to harm them in some way, they can start feeling ill. So the placebo effect is positive, the nocebo effect is negative, and it definitely works. I can't remember if I told you before, but I used to be into wild food foraging. And I remember I once picked some mushrooms. I took them home and, I identified them from the book and I cooked them up and I ate them. And then I got home and I looked at my book and again I thought, just a minute, that mushroom I ate had white flecks underneath, not brown ones. I think I've eaten the wrong mushroom. And I convinced myself I'd eaten the wrong mushroom and I started feeling sick. And I thought, I better go to A&E. I'm feeling sick. I've eaten the wrong mushrooms. But I hadn't. I'd eaten the right mushrooms. It was just, I had a nocebo effect because I'd come to believe I've eaten the wrong ones. Don't ever eat mushrooms unless you know exactly what they are. And someone's don't eat mushrooms, whatever you do. That you pick wild, just get them from a shop, from an expert. Anyway, I don't do that anymore, so don't worry about that. But it's just an example of the nocebo effect, where you just believe something's happened and it does make you feel ill. This is how witch doctors work. You put in curses on people. I think a lot of the time it's just nocebo effect because people believe in it, then they start feeling ill. So placebo effect and nocebo effect, which of course is why we have control groups in clinical trials, as we've mentioned before. Thanks to Susan, thanks to Julie, the dog, and thanks to you for watching.